Welcome to Leading with Curiosity. Command and control leadership is dead. We interview leaders, entrepreneurs, and executive coaches challenging old paradigms and fostering cutting-edge leadership. Here's your host, certified executive coach, Nate Leslie.
Welcome, listeners. Growing up in the prairies of Canada in the East, I listened to Never Surrender, Sunglasses at Night by Corey Hart. I've got Corey Hart today here, who had a long career in music and is not that Corey Hart. But this Corey Hart's going to add more value to Leading with Curiosity than the other one would have. Corey, welcome to Leading with Curiosity.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Nate.
The timing of this conversation is perfect. I've stepped away for a couple of hours from the Web Summit conference, a tech and web conference here in Vancouver, just down the street from my house. Today's topic, we're talking about startups. We're talking about raising money, scaling your business, and the distractions that can come along the way. My guest, Corey Hart, has a lot of experience in all of that, and now at this point in his career is giving back by teaching a lot of these things in the university. So as a lifelong learner myself, I'm really excited to dive into this and find out what you're sharing with those students and what's resonating. And I think the listeners will learn along the way what you do for a living and how you might be able to add value. Does that sound all right, Corey?
Sounds great. We can get right into it.
We got on the call and we were talking about raising money and startups. And you said raising money can be a wild distraction from your actual business. Tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah, it's I just see it time and time again where founders, especially early stage founders, end up distracted by the news, their little news feeds, LinkedIn, so-and-so, I just raised this money. I just raised that. I just closed this deal. I exited this. And they go down this road, this rut of, oh man, I need to be fundraising too. And then all of a sudden they're not paying attention to their business, or they're not developing their team, because fundraising is a full-time job on its own. And I often just try to help the guys and girls say, hey, you know what? The best kind of money that I like is customer money.
Yeah.
Not investor money.
Yeah. It sounds to me like as you raise money, you're further and further in debt. You have more and more people to pay off, right? But it's like a badge of honor, right? I raised $10 million. Like, wow, that's going to take you a while to dig your way out of, right? Where's the ego play into how much they're raising?
Right. There you go. And then they're also no longer their own boss. Then all of a sudden they've got, stakeholders, or even, well, if you raise money and you're doing it the right way, then you have a board and they can fire you. It's like, it's like, okay, nice job, entrepreneur.
I'm at this conference this week and it's been really inspiring. I made some great connections and I've been inspired by the young people. So maybe we go towards students here. I've met these keen people wanting to network at the events, and I just admired their passion. We can be a little hard on the young people these days in our Western North American society here, and they're so passionate. I did find it interesting. Many of them introduced themselves as, I'm a CEO. CEO, for the young listeners out there, means you report to a board. So if you're in college in your dorm room and you have an idea and you have a sole proprietorship, it doesn't mean you're a CEO. Again, that's kind of like that brand identity and that and that ego. What do you share with students about really the early days of getting started as an entrepreneur around that mentality?
A good question there. And we spend a lot of time on that in my business 101 class with these first year students. We talk a lot about how there really aren't job titles when you get started. It's like you're doing everything. And because the business 101 course that I take folks through is not the overview summary kind of thing. Like today is marketing and next week we're going to get into HR. And after that, we're going to get into
what is it?
We cover. We do cover those things, but it's a lot about soft skills. So, I really appreciate where you come from on the curiosity thing, because it is something that you can teach and it's something that you can exercise. And that's something we lean heavily into is let's exercise that curiosity. What that means when we pair that with empathy.
Nice.
And then when we get to that, like, oh, I'm a CEO and that's not my job. Well, everything's your job as part of showing up for your team. And we spend a lot of time with the people aspect.
Yeah.
And I think
they should be called
just HR.
Don't you think they should be called the hard skills? I mean, they're the ones that come second to many people when they're thinking about business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the reframe. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. And the reason why the university has kind of flipped the script a little bit and focused so much on emotional intelligence and soft skills is, yeah, because it's what's going to pull you through with the resilience, and that curiosity is going to help you learn anything you have to learn. I mean, like, you may not be a payroll expert, but one day you might have to be.
Yeah, you start out with an idea and you've maybe done some market research, whatever that looks like to a young up and coming business starter. And then that curiosity allows you to listen to your customer, listen to the market, and not assume or decide you're right. Right. I mean, how many of us have started something and then it becomes something else and you look back, wow, that's not what I started 5 years ago, but here I
Yeah.
am. Right. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm in a contract right now where it's been so much fun taking a new product to market, but the product was, of course, developed without a lot of understanding of what the customer was going to be. So it was
Wow.
a
There you
lot of
go.
conversations to figure out, okay, well, where does this fit and who does it fit? How does it fit? Why does it fit? What are the benefits? They often say that's not how you do it. You don't do the product first. You find
Yeah.
the problem and
Yeah.
then work on the product. But sometimes visionaries may have a product before there's a market, like iPhone. And those are some really challenging things to take to market, because it does take a lot of conversations, a ton of no's, a lot of learning. And if you are not driven by that curiosity and pulled through by resilience, you may not find that product market fit. You may have spent all that money and all that time, but it usually exists somewhere. It may not, like what you just said, it may not be what you thought or intended.
Yeah, I need to be willing for that to happen. That's also true in my industry. When I was coming through coaching school, a lot of coaches trying to figure out what their niche is, or you may say niche in Western Michigan. And hey, I'm going to be this type of coach. That's important. I want to service this type of client. Okay, cool. What I noticed is convincing someone first at some niche market what coaching is, and then convincing them that they should pay for it, versus finding where the need is and where the industry already exists, and then find a gap in how I fit. No different than a physical product or a software product, right? Like the iPhone is the wild example of inventing someone people didn't know they needed. But for young people starting, like looking for things that the world, even a small portion of the world, what they actually need, and then trying to fill that void. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's it's really fun to be a part of those rollouts, whether it's a consumer or on the other side. And as I spend a lot of time in hospitality, and restaurant folks do this all the time. Chefs are experts at this. They're like, I know what's good food, and I'm going to bring this on the menu. And then you got to convince your team to peddle it. And then the team's got to convince a bunch of fickle folks who really aren't experts in the kitchen or palates on why they should buy it and invest in it. Psalms do that day in and day out. Some of the great ones, will sell like, $10,000-$40,000 bottles of wine on
Sommeliers.
sommeliers.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's really fun for me to have had that experience and exercise, carry me into more of the business and the advising and the teaching and executing. There was a time where I spent in California, and I left without really a penny. And I was one of the first contracted folks for Lyft, the rideshare service.
Sure. Yeah.
As they entered the market for the first time. This is back when rideshare wasn't ubiquitous and everywhere. And I had to, but most of the conversations I were having with all these early adopters, but to a large part, Lyft was paying me a nice hefty sum every hour just to sit around waiting for folks to call, because they were trying to convince folks that no, it's cool. This white bald dude in a station wagon with the pink mustache on it, that's not scary. Nope.
Okay. The chef's analogy is, I think that's a powerful one, because people can relate, right? In terms of product to market, product, the meal, to market, the people sitting looking at the menu. The chef thinks, and especially as we get like more fine dining, they're creating things no one's ever seen before, and customers, I'm probably not the right customer. Customers don't even know what they're looking for. Chef thinks people need it. Chef
Right.
believes it's great. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean people want it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you have
someone's got to convince them.
some of those restaurants and some of those districts where people are just moseying around, right? Like, oh, what does this place look like? What does that smell like? Let's take a look at the menu. Oh, I don't think so. What about you? Then you're dealing with a customer profile that is then managing by committee, and we know what that's like. Like that's hell, right? So in business, like that's kind of a nightmare, but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah.
I'm in
That's a good
the boat
analogy.
of, hey, honey, just pick a place because I'll be happy with anything.
Yeah. But you wouldn't mind knowing what the ingredients are too, right? So if you're serving ingredients that I've never heard of, I'm starting at this age to get curious about it, but I'm a little intimidated to enter the market, right? I don't know what I'm getting myself into here.
Yeah, and a lot of these folks, like they'll have invested a lot of energy, human resource, and money in the product before they even sell a single thing.
Yeah.
So I love restaurants as a case to go back to time and time again, because like you said, it's very relatable. And as a business, it's razor thin margins, and your product is expiring as we speak. So you have to sell it or you throw it away. It's not like a durable good or a service. So it's wild example.
Those are all things for people starting their own business to think through. Do I want to be in goods, right? Do I want things to be expiring as we speak? Yeah. Did you watch the Bear, the show?
Oh man, love it.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
This idea of unreasonable excellence and just serving, being in service to the people that are sitting out there and giving them this experience that they can't forget really resonates with me. I'm working with the Canadian Olympic program, the Own the Podium program, and they've adopted for all of their sports in the Winter and Summer Olympics in their people development is this idea of unreasonable excellence. How can we make this experience so meaningful that people just desperately want to be a part of it? So it's interesting to see that go from the kitchen to the court or to the ice or to the hill. Around people.
That's fantastic. This current contract I'm in right now, behavioral health space, we're leaning into clinical excellence and really, and that's elevating the kind of provider that we're attracting. And so for any kind of organization, we talk about employer branding. And when you're focusing on excellence of hiring, the excellence of communication, the excellence of leadership, that's very attractive to folks. And it's almost like they can feel the vibe. I was helping turn around a restaurant in San Diego, and we had a nightclub next door. The manager there, he was so good. And he had this phrase, POTV. He's like, putting out the vibe. Are we putting out the vibe? Are you putting out the vibe? Like,
people can feel it.
Putting out the vibe. Yeah, exactly. Like the curb appeal. People, it's that collective consciousness. People can pick up that vibe, right? One-on-one or from a group. Yeah. They walk into a retail store, whatever you're doing, doesn't matter. The vibe is a big deal.
The vibe, what'd you call the employer branding? So when people come to work there, it feels a certain way, and you're either in or you're in the way, right? You're either adding to it or you're subtracting from it, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's going to come out in the service of your customers or guests or whatever you call it. It comes out in your partner relationships, your vendor relationships, and it all matters, right? People, like, let's have fun with this. Let's not make it so damn hard.
So let's pause for a second, Corey, because we were talking about Business 101 course, and then just for the listener, one of the other services you offer is this like fractional CXO, and it ranges in how much you're being involved, but just share that industry with the people. Like if you could describe the couple of buckets that you live in and services that you're able to provide businesses, tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. So I really, really do enjoy the early stage founders and entrepreneurs. So I'm always available to those folks. And I do donate a lot of my time to some local organizations, entrepreneurship organizations. And
give a shout out to one of them. Give a shout out to one of them so a listener could look up and just see that those exist. Yeah, who are you helping?
A really strong one is Spring GR. And so I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Spring GR is a really great program where entrepreneurs of any kind, any any amount of expertise can come in for less than $100 and go through the business canvas and really get a nice curriculum of kind of how to business.
Amazing.
And the people who take advantage of this resource are sometimes PhDs, because you go to school, you become an expert in paper, but it doesn't mean you know how to run a paper business, right?
Yeah.
So then there's also people that are fresh out of school, still in high school. There's food service businesses, there's tech businesses. And then after that short few week course, you're surrounded by mentors, and I'm part of like the mentor community. So the organizers of Spring GR, they'll pop into my email every now and then and said, hey, I've got an entrepreneur that is really struggling with this. Do you think you'd be able to spend some time with them?
Nice.
And so then I engage with that entrepreneur, and we set up, expectations and a cadence, and we really tackle that one area. And then we'll usually discover some other area, and then it's kind of a baton, a handoff. Like, all right, that was fun. I can't wait to see you. It's so much fun to see these folks in the community, operating their business, whether it's, a year or 5 years later, and see where they've grown. So that's just really a lot of fun, honestly.
Let me throw one thing at you then. I talked to some young, keen student entrepreneurs at this conference a couple nights ago, who I think by the sounds of it, the word AI is coming up every 3 to 4 seconds at this thing, right? Okay, we're a new company and we're essentially using AI to automate that, like an advisor. What are your thoughts when you think about the value that you provide as a human being? Could that be dashboarded? Could that be automated as a course? And I'm trying not to bring a human-centered bias here, but what would be missing if your program, if Spring GR didn't have a human and it was just an online platform?
Well, the more general AI platforms are still having an issue with hallucination and whatnot. So you just have to be really careful of the advice you get. A lot of it's really good.
Right.
And because it loves to support and regurgitate, a lot of times it'll be telling you you're doing great when you're not doing great.
Good example.
And it may not really understand the nuances of your particular segment. It may be filled with knowledge from a different city or different town or different country where the laws are different, or especially a different state. Right now, my current contract, I work in a behavioral healthcare and heavily regulated market here in the U.S. 50 different states, 50 different sets of rules. AI might recommend, and it does because I use it a lot, and it'll say, "Oh, try this and try that and try this," and I'm like, "Are you sure?" It's like, "Oh, good catch." It's just
right.
It really is like, "Hey, Corey,
your
good
wisdom,
catch."
your wisdom says, "Are you sure?" Right, based on the knowledge that you have. Okay, good.
So that human interface really needs to be a part of all things right now, and we've actually started an AI governance committee because it's in one human is not enough.
Right. Yeah.
And we want to be. And I teach this in the class as well. Like, you're going to have to really be expert in AI, no matter what it is you're doing. Okay. But you have to be careful on how you implement it.
Yeah.
And where you implement it, and that it benefits the most people, right? Be careful of the harm that can be done, because it's a machine and it'll operate 24/7 on whatever it's told to do, and it can do that and create a lot of harm. I'm the best AI ever, and it's just out there making a mess.
And so semester by semester, you're going to have to lead with curiosity, aren't you? Because you're also going to have to keep your ear and your eyes on what's going on.
Things are changing so fast. From the fall semester to the winter semester, night and day. The efficacy, the quality of the materials, the tools. Even in my day-to-day business of recommending different tools, I'm now recommending tools for things that I would have said, stay away from those. That's
right.
Like, that's not going to be effective, but now it is.
Yeah. So just to recap where we're at here, you've got the Business 101, so teaching. You've got giving some of your time to organizations like Spring GR in Grand Rapids that helps very early stage beginners. You've talked about helping turn around a restaurant. What else? What other branch is in your business model that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, yeah, I really like growth and marketing challenges, but operations challenges are super fun too. I have some folks, and most of my stuff comes word of mouth. So before this behavioral healthcare organization, I was working with the city and state of New York on mitigating their asylum seeker issue.
Oh my
And
gosh. Wow.
uh, and I was just, that's a huge dumpster fire. And I had a friend and a colleague who worked in an organization and says, I need some help. And you love dumpster fires. You should help me with this problem. And 2 days later, I was in New York, like, person number 4 on the team. And then we grew that to over 1,000 people. It was a almost $500 million project.
Wow.
Pretty intense, surrounding all these folks with social services, interfacing with the Department of Justice, education, making sure the kids are going to school, housing, food. And that's where being such a generalist comes in handy.
Yeah.
Because, yep, I know how to feed you because I've run and owned restaurants. I've been in education. So, yeah, I understand the value of logistics of what it takes to get people and how important it is to get kids there. And then the people management piece really, really right people in the right seats, on
Yeah,
the
right
bus.
people in the right seats.
So,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So this, fractional idea, this can sort of consulting part-time idea here too. I think there's a listener out there, creative experience. This conversation is inspiring me that for all of us, as we accumulate experiences, there's value we can add back. So somebody's listening thinking, I think I could really use Corey, turn around my restaurant. There's somebody else thinking, it's simply just interesting how he's created a business out of his past experiences. Yeah, that's what I'm really taking away. I want to get back to this distraction and the things that can get in the way of business owners, and maybe we'll hang here for the remainder of our conversation. Scaling businesses and the distracting nature of what happens along the way. Let's go one of these hockey stick companies that's growing. What do you see as the things that someone who's going through that growth, things are going really well, that's listening to this, what do they need to watch out for?
well, I love the phrase, the main thing is keeping the main thing the main thing.
Nice.
And so when you find that product market fit and you find what's selling, it's all right. You found the embers. Let's throw some gas on it. Really, really lean into team is what I'm often help people with, especially on that scaling, especially when it gets to hyperscale, is you can turn through a lot of folks if you're not careful. I really love examples of leaders who, like CEOs especially, that want to, or founders if they're not technically a CEO per your earlier conversation.
Yeah.
So I like it when founders are like, okay, you know what? I will hire the first 250 people because I want to be a culture first organization. Because then people, when they're in that foxhole with you and they're in the fight, like it's, they're purpose driven, right? They believe in the mission. They believe in the value that's being provided. That's something that it's dangerous to delegate too soon. Culture. I see it time and time again. And getting that culture back, getting that vibe back is a little bit harder than maintaining it. And that's where founders really do need to make sure that they are feeling the vibe and they're putting it out, that they're giving themselves the time, they're getting the rest, they're getting their sleep, and that they're encouraging their team to do the same. So it's a wild ride, that Hyperscale. It's
Can you pretend that there's a listener that does not know what you mean by hyperscale is, and maybe put that in an analogy or even raw numbers, like what that you've been involved in? What do you mean by hyperscale?
Sure. So a lot of folks think linear, and this is what I really encourage a lot of businesses to do is like, hey, why don't we just create a good business where year over year we're increasing X, whatever is industry norm, or what is comfortable, what's going to get you to your number? Like, what is your number? And let's get you there over 5-10 years. Hyperscale is that investment model. If you take that pill, then your investors want their exit and they want it to be 100x, 1,000x. In order to get that in the compressed time, your growth has to be like what we call hockey stick. So rather than me like taking it nice and easy and doing the linear thing and all cool, I think it's time to hire somebody. When you're doing a hockey stick, we got to hire 100. We got to hire 50. We have to raise another $100 million.
Yeah.
Is
that a real number? An investor might want 100 times what they put in a short amount of time?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
They're certainly investing in a lot of companies they don't expect
yeah.
that return from. If you're a company where they're like, yep, you're one of my 10x companies, then that's great. Unfortunately, you're not going to get a lot of their time. And that's really what you're trying to get with that investment relationship is I want access to your network. I want access to your intelligence, like how you got to where you got. But if you're not one of their darling 100, 1000x companies, then you're probably not going to get, you might get, one of their analysts to reach out to you every now and then, be like, why didn't you send that update? Or
Yeah.
I don't
Or
know.
where's my money?
You have to exactly.
Where's my boss's money? Right.
Right. You have
So
to,
so there's a listener saying, "Oh, I want to raise money and grow this big company." But what we're reminding them here is you're literally giving away ownership, but you're literally turning your founder into a job. You're kind of
uh-huh,
creating employment for yourself,
uh-huh.
and that pressure of those types of returns. That's the expectation versus what you just described. Hey,
Yeah.
what's your number? Where do you want to get to 5 or 10 years from now? And let's build it in a way that maybe doesn't require investment or a different type of
Right.
investment, or you can
Or
bootstrap it.
alternative kinds of
Yeah.
funding. Like
What's an
there's
example
all
of
different kinds.
yeah, what's an example of that that's not this
Well,
100x
depending on
demand?
your industry, there's like factoring. So you could sell or you could repay in future sales.
Mhm.
So like clothing retail. So you have an inventory, you can take it's basically securing your inventory.
Okay.
So you can
Give us that even more simple. So we're let's say we sell gray sweaters.
yeah. So
Turn that into
right.
turn that into the business for our listeners.
Right. So then I would borrow on, say, the collateral value of my inventory of gray sweaters. And I know that I need to use that to maybe make payroll. A lot of times these are for short-term kind of needs,
Yeah.
because also inventory should, if we're doing it right, should be a short-term situation. You're constantly turning it over. So then I
Right.
know for every gray sweater, 10, 15% of that sale is going to go to the repay that loan.
Yep. Okay. Over what would be a typical duration for somebody that loan repayment on a deal like that?
Um, a lot of time, like that's where it gets really negotiable,
Okay.
because they have this kind of arrangement for retail. They have it for some service businesses. They have it for restaurants. Anything that can be recouped, like pretty much automatically, is where these are really effective.
Yeah.
So, for example, on that sweater thing, rather than chasing me down and wondering how much of my inventory I have left, they're just gonna plug right into my register, right? And they'll be like, great, cool. Thanks for that credit card swipe. Before it hits your account, we've already taken our 15%.
Amazing. Just automate that loan repayment off of
Yeah.
every sale.
That can be really convenient, but it's not always, because then of course that's 50% of your margin.
Right. Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah.
make sure you have that.
Convenient for the lender
Right.
and automated. It's like a wealthy barber putting money away, but from a cash flow perspective,
Right.
it can, if it
Other
goes.
alternative resources could be friends, family, and fools. Traditional bank loans. You can also do a hybrid. You can do something where you do sell some equity, but you get to buy it back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's anything is negotiable.
So for the
And
listener,
that's
there's
fine.
like raising debt that says I'm going to lend this company $1,000 and I'm going to get back 1,000 plus whatever percent you negotiate. There's other ones that say I'm going to give them X amount and I'm going to get a percentage of the company. These are sort of the fundamentals that you're probably exploring with your students, back to your students, and what model is right for the industry that they're in and the type of business they're trying to grow and what they want for their own life too, right?
Right. And that's goes back to the entrepreneur, the individual, the founder themselves, is like, what is your number? Why are you here? Why do you do this? Are you building a legacy? Are you trying to buy a house? Are you trying to be an asshole? Or what are you trying to do here?
And so listeners can find, you work with people from sort of minimal contact or regular, or, monthly agreement to significant and anything in between. It sounds like a person like you would be a real good place to start when a listener's saying, I've heard one of these, one of these models that seems to resonate that Corey's been talking about, and I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed. Someone like you can come in and help kind of coach them through all those different options and also probably point them in the direction of those resources, right? Because some
Yeah.
people think, I need to go to San Francisco and find a venture capitalist or an angel investor, and others are like, oh, I could maybe go to the credit union down the street. It's everything
I'm
in
happy
between,
to
isn't it?
I'm happy to talk through all elements, no matter what it is. Even if someone is trying to get into this game, like you or myself, in where we specialize, because everyone has a lot to give back,
Yeah.
and many of us, and I just started charging after I because people are like, you should charge for this, man. I just used to give all the advice, and I'd help out when I have all these projects going. I'd be spending 20 hours a week on these different projects. And eventually they're like, why aren't you charging for this? And what are you getting out of it? I'm like, you know what? Maybe you're right. And I felt kind of slimy and grimy about it to begin with. But then I realized that it is actually a true value. And then I also found that I was saying yes less often, and that was better for my health.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Right on. It's CoreyTheHart.com. I've learned a lot. I just love sort of thinking through all these different options and inspired by this idea of taking the value and experience that you've gained in turn and knowing someone else can use it. And you learned a very organic way how to turn your value into a business. And I congratulate you on all that success. CoreyTheHart.com. Anywhere else you'd prefer people find you?
That's a great spot. All my socials are there. So that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Please, listener, don't be intimidated. When I went there, I'm like, oh, this guy is low key and knowledgeable. And yeah, you just felt like a real accessible entrepreneur yourself right off the bat. So thanks for your time, Corey. It's been a pleasure exploring this with you today.
Yeah, likewise, Nate. Enjoy the conference, and so jealous of you over there in Vancouver. Such a beautiful area.
It is. Thank you.
It's so great.
It's amazing. Good talking.
Thanks for listening to Leading with Curiosity. Please share, follow, and rate the show so that other leaders can make positive change in the world. Connect with Nate at nateleslie.ca. And remember, the brain behaves very differently when encouraged to think rather than told to listen.